The economy is dead, and this is the reality of the situation when you look at the real economic indicators, which show you that there is no hope for growth globally. You can see this going on right now. I'll show you the statistics that the mainstream media refuses to cover. The government never looks at. Let's take a look at some of these right now. I'm going to start with showing some indicators from Japan. Over the past few years, their real wages have gone down. Now, why is that the case if they've been printing trillions and trillions over the past few decades? The fact remains is that printing money does not work. It never has and it never will. But Japan refuses to believe that. They have their zombie banking system, and they have an excessively high debt to GDP ratio, and they can make all the excuses in the world. You'll hear every fund manager, every money manager using Japan as the real economic indicator here, that they say they were able to print money to get themselves out of it. But the fact remains is that look at the real wages. This is an important indicator that you need to look at. For every education level, real wages have gone down so far this year. This is talking about the US and how real wages, that's actually what matters, has not gone up. They continuously increase inflation. However, your real wages keep going down. And this is the line here. Real hourly wages declined for almost every segment of the US workforce in the first half of 2014. They'll never talk about these statistics here. Let's go on. This is the talking about consumer confidence, and it says, if consumers are so confident, then why aren't they spending? That's very interesting, because you always hear about the consumer confidence being at new highs consistently. However, they're not spending the money that they were prior to the recession. And let's just go to the first line. It says, the sheep have been told their confidence is at a 7-year high by the propaganda peddlers working at the behest of the oligarchy. Very nice wording there. And that's the ultimate truth, is that they're not buying anything, and they're somehow saying that the mainstream media, that is, that their consumer confidence is at a 7-year high. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense. Let's take a look at this. Labor force participation, the percentage of the working age population that has a job or is looking for one, hovers at a 36-year low. I talked about these statistics before, and these are real indicators. They don't cover them, and this shows you the real economy. Let's go on. I talked about it in my book, talking about why this is the case. When you have this system right here, it was one of the diagrams I drew up. This is why you can't generate real wage growth. You can't generate real productivity, because you have the US and the Fed, and this applies to all central banks around the world. They're buying up their debt, printing money out of thin air to somehow keep this system going. It doesn't work. You end up with the part of the diagram at the bottom, which is a pile of IOUs, and what's going to happen with that is just going to fall onto the back of the taxpayers, whether through a direct taxation or whether through inflation. That's just the way it works. Here you have their solution to this problem. It is ultimately to get into war, or the threat of war, Cold War. And here they are, EU prepared to threaten Russia with new sanctions over the Ukraine. Now, whatever side you're on for this whole Russia-Ukraine situation, it doesn't matter. The fact remains is that the individual in the United States, and the UK and Canada, so on and so forth, are going to be hurt by this, whether it's from the increased oil prices, increased gas prices, doesn't matter. It all ends up back onto the US, Canadian, and other nations' taxpayer backs. And this is a real economic indicator that unfortunately we are chosen to take on ourselves. U.S. military suicides have overtaken combat deaths. So when they tell us in the mainstream media that they're doing things for our own good, for our own safety, when they give bailouts to multi-billion-dollar bailouts to these companies we know have stolen from us before, we have to stand up and say, no, you're lying. Look at what the wars have done. When you have more suicides than combat deaths, and that was as of 2020, 2012. It's getting worse and worse, especially now they're going to be heading back into Iraq, and it's going to be nothing but more of this. It is a very, very sad day when you have these lies, but I am here to expose this as the truth, and that is very unfortunate. If you like this type of information, please give me a thumbs up on this video, and of course don't forget to become an insider. It's where I give out all the best intel, and it's totally free. It's at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom and fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me.